Some very strange events that caused a bunch of soldiers to go missing in Fort Hood, some of the most famous cases of missing soldiers in Vietnam, and what a mother will do to see her son come home safely. We have all of this on today's top 10 list. Coming in at number 10, we have Sean Flynn. Even though it seemed that war is just non-stop carnage without any rulebook to slow things down, I mean, it might be like that, I've never been there, and like most things in the world, when you're actually part of it, it's mostly very different. And that's not an invitation to take me to war. I never want to go. But what I'm talking about is things like don't kill civilians. They got nothing to do with the conflict. Don't use certain weapons that are considered to be inhumane. And journalists are allowed to work in the area without having to worry about being attacked by the other side. Well, the thing is, it's war and people aren't always going to follow these rules. Now, this guy wasn't a soldier, but he was involved in one of the biggest wars in American history as a photojournalist. He was working in Vietnam documenting everything that was going on, and then him and his fellow journalists were captured by Vietnamese guerrillas. People don't know why they were captured. The Vietnamese forces might have thought they were spies. They might have known that they were journalists, but for whatever reason they were captured. After that, no one knows what happened to them. They might have been taken behind enemy lines and then sold off to other people, or they might have escaped and got lost in the wilderness and passed. But to this day, the fate of those two men is still a mystery. And guys, make sure you hit that like button because it really helps us out. Coming in at number 9, we have Enrique Martinez. Back in 2020 on Memorial Day, Enrique Martinez would go missing. His family put out a missing persons claim for him, and for a significant period of time there was nothing found. It would seem that he might have ran away because his family said that he didn't have any enemies and described him as a hippie. Seems like an interesting combination of hippie and soldier, but he just wanted to live a fun life with his family after serving his time in the military. Eventually there would be a discovery made that would help the family know what happened to their son, more in the sense it would let them mourn and have some closure. His head was found in a pier after it washed ashore. This shocked the community where he lived. The problem was that the rest of him was never found, so it was hard to find out what actually happened to him. There was no security footage of what happened to him either, so it's unknown who could have done this to him. It's suspected to be a homicide since his head was removed from the body. Next on the list, we have James Van Fleet's Troups. Van Fleet was a lifelong military man. He fought in 3 separate wars. Just to have the Constitution to go through that much carnage would be incredible. He was sent over during World War I, World War II, and the Korean War. During the Korean War, he was leading a troop of men into action and then something went horribly wrong. Even though Van Fleet was a skilled soldier who had seen action many times before, for some reason a large percentage of his troops went missing. It's suspected that they might have walked into an ambush or that some of the men deserted the situation to try and find refuge somewhere they could have been safer. The whole thing is still shrouded in mystery. Coming in at number 7, we have the Fort Hood soldiers. For this, we need to head over to Fort Hood, Texas. Now, even though I would never want to go to war, I find the whole experience fascinating. There is a massive psychological effect of seeing warfare. There are a few cases where people have been able to walk away from the whole experience without it affecting them very much, but for other people it seems like it sticks with them for a very long time. And then those ongoing effects might stick with your platoon. In Fort Hood, Texas, there has been a series of missing soldiers that people cannot explain. There seems to be something going on over there that is causing people to snap. On 2 separate occasions, people have opened fire on their fellow soldiers, and since then 12 different people have gone missing. Now, 2 of them were found, but they were not alive. Could these people be running away from the military because they're finding out that this life is not for them, or is there something that the fort is trying to keep secret and some reason they needed to take people out? No one knows why so many troops have gone missing within the American borders, but it has been raising a lot of suspicions. Next on the list, we have Bowe Bergdahl. Bowe was fighting in the military around 2010. He was over in Iraq, he was serving with his troops, and then out of nowhere, he would disappear. There was a search launch for him, but it would seem that he was lost to the world. People thought that he might have been killed in action, or that he might have ran away from his post from the stress of being out there, but the answer would actually have been darker than both of those. He would pop up in a Taliban video. He had been taken prisoner by the terrorist organization and was now pleading on the video for his American government to do something to bring him home. Next on the list, we have Aflon Bakowski. You think one of the coolest parts of being in the military would be gathering intelligence. If the movies paint the picture accurately, then it would be like going in as a spy to get all the info you need so you can come back with your master plan to save the day. Well, even though we know that's nowhere near the truth, you would hope that things wouldn't go like this. Aflon was doing his reconnaissance for the Americans during the Vietnam War. He was with 7 other people on board a plane that was flying over Laos. For some reason the plane was spotted and they were shot down. This led to a recovery team having to move in and get the men out of there. One of the 7 men was killed in the crash, one of them was taken prisoner, and 4 of them were recovered by the American forces. But no one knows what happened to Aflon. Maybe he was able to make it out when the plane crashed and he thought he could make his own way back. Maybe as the plane was going down he tried to jump out and landed somewhere in the jungle but was never seen again. Or maybe he was taken prisoner and the Laos government never told the Americans about him. To this day, no one knows where he went or what happened to him after that flight. Next on the list we have Shelton Charles E. This was something that I thought was very interesting. You can go missing in war for years and people will have no idea if you're alive or dead, and then you'll just pop up again. During the Vietnam War, Shelton was tasked with doing some flyovers and taking pictures. It sounded like it should have been something fun and relaxing, but I don't think there's anything in the military that is fun and relaxing. And this trip to grab these photos would have been extra stressful. During the flyover, his plane caught fire, and that's pretty damn serious. I don't know if you guys have been on a plane or know that much about aviation, but when you start to see fire when you're up in the sky, there's a good chance that you're done for. Now this plane went down, but he was able to call for rescue before he hit the earth, and he survived the crash. Now your boys should have come right for you to save you, but there was weather conditions that made it horrible for them to come in and making it impossible for the men to get there to save their man. It took them 3 days to get through there, and by the time they did, he was gone. Now people didn't know what happened to him. That was until 3 years later when he popped up as a Vietnamese POW. The whole time he was alive and his buddies had no idea where he went. Next on the list we have the missing Mila soldiers. There has been a constant conflict in the country of Mila. The government-run military has been in a battle with the Islamic militants that have been rebelling against the country, and on March 16th the militants attacked a base. It's unsure how they were able to get in and attack with such precision, but they were able to take out 11 men, and now 8 others are missing. It's unknown what could have happened to these 8 men. They might have fled the scene when they realized the base was overrun and they need to get into a better position, or they could have been taken hostage by the militant group. 8 men could be a very strong bargaining chip in future negotiations if it came to that. Next on the list we have Sanjit Bhattacharjee. We would like to think that everyone is following the rules of war, but that is sometimes not the case. Sometimes you can be taken away and forgotten about, and that might be what happened to Sanjit. Sanjit was in the Indian Army and he was in charge of patrolling the border between India and Pakistan. Back in April of 1997, him and his platoon were out patrolling and they came back without him and 1 other soldier. Since then, his mother has been petitioning with the Supreme Court to find out what happened to her son. There is a chance that he was killed in action, but there are a number of Indian soldiers that have been taken into the custody of the Pakistani military that the government is denying. Sanjit's mother is sure that her son is one of those soldiers. Even after 24 years, she is still fighting to have her son returned home safely. That is a very good mom. And next we have the missing troops from World War I. World War I was the first majorly mechanized war. You had people on horseback fighting people who had cannons that could devastate a 5 square meter radius. The unbalance of tech was insane, and because of this, some of the battles were brutal. In the Battle of the Somme, there were 300,000 people that died. Over 20,000 people died in 1 day. As you can imagine, when people were storming into the battle, shells were falling out of the sky non-stop. There were a lot of bodies that were unaccounted for. Over 70,000 soldiers went missing during World War I. Now, some of these men might have run away to start a new life in Europe. After they saw the destruction of the war, they might have wanted nothing to do with it. And I can't really blame them. Eventually you realize that this is going to get you killed and you just want to live your life. But there's a good portion of that 70,000 that were killed in action, but their bodies were never found. Alright guys, that has been our list. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I've been your host, Chader, and we'll catch you on the next one.